So today we're going to be reinventing drive-through style burritos. And the cool thing about these is not only do they taste better, they're less expensive if you do it this way, and depending on how far you have to drive, they might even be faster. Oh, and we're also going to make a few of those salsas that come in these little cups when you go to these places. So let's not waste any time and let's get to it. Okay, let's get started with the Salsa Verde. Cut 4 tomatillos into quartered sections and combine them with 1/2 of a jalapeno, a few small pieces of onion, and 4 garlic cloves and place them under a broiler on the low setting. This should take about 10 minutes. And for our red chili salsa, place 2 split Guajillo chilies flesh side down along with 2 small arbol chilies into a small pan over the stovetop. The inside of the guajillos will lighten up in color, indicating that they are done. Then cover them with hot water and set them aside, and let's prepare our burrito fillings. Any number of vegetable fillings will work here. I'm going with a little bit of jalapeno and red bell pepper. Once you're finished with that, set them aside and let's move on to the most underrated burrito ingredient of all, potatoes. Waxy varieties such as these red skin potatoes are ideal because they hold their shape better. Cut them into small bite-sized pieces and place them into a small pot of water over the stovetop. Add a pinch of salt and bring them into a simmer, not a boil because we want the potatoes to stay intact. Yukon Gold potatoes are also a good choice here. You can use russets, but be careful because starchier varieties don't hold their shape as well. Okay, let's check back in on our tomatillo pan. They've been in the oven for about 10 minutes, and as you can see, we've developed a light browning on the surface. You could take this a bit further if you would like, but I'm going to call this good. Peel the 4 cloves of garlic and set 2 of them aside for the guajillo salsa. Place all of the remaining ingredients into a blender along with a small handful of cilantro and a pinch of salt. I'm using an immersion blender here because I'm making a very small amount. Blend this together, but not too thoroughly. I think it's best when it's left as a slightly coarse texture. And to further resemble one of those takeout drive-through style burritos, let's place it into one of those cups that they give you. And to make our Guajillo Chile Salsa, place the 2 remaining garlic cloves along with all 4 chilies, roughly 6 ounces of the reserve liquid, and a pinch of salt into a blender and blend this until it's completely smooth. I should note that this particular salsa is quite spicy. If you want to tone it down a bit, just omit the 2 arbol chilies and proceed as usual. Okay, now that our 2 salsas are out of the way, let's go ahead and check back in on our potatoes. They've been simmering for a few minutes now, and I find the best way to check for doneness is to just eat one. Once they are tender, strain them out and set them aside, and we can move on to cooking our meat. For that, start by placing a pan over high heat, and once that heats up, add a small bit of olive oil to the pan, along with your meat. You could use just about any cut of meat here. I am using this shaved steak that I picked up at Aldi. A non-stick pan is ideal for this particular meat, but a regular pan will work for larger pieces. I like using this shaved steak because it provides for a unique texture. Be sure to season it with a bit of salt and continue to cook it until it develops a bit of color on a portion of it. Sometimes with shaved meat, the thin pieces like to glue themselves to each other, so you have to pull it apart a bit. When the meat is done cooking, set it aside and put the pan back on the burner. Add a little bit of olive oil along with the bell peppers, jalapenos, and potatoes. Add another pinch of salt, and we're going to cook this briefly until it develops a little bit of browning. Once you've reached that point, go ahead and add the meat back in, toss it together a bit, and taste for seasoning, and then we'll be ready to put these burritos together. I've preheated a flour tortilla shell, and we're going to spread our filling across the bottom half of the shell. Add a bit of diced avocado, a little bit of cilantro, and to close it up, fold over the bottom, followed up by the 2 sides, and roll it up the rest of the way. And let's go ahead and cut into this thing and see what it looks like. And there you have it, that's the end of the video. Thanks for tuning in and see you next time.